Hey there everybody, I'm Reload, and today I'm bringing you my guide for EVE Online free-to-play alpha clones. This guide is mainly for people thinking about joining EVE Online for the first time, or for people who have played in the past and are now thinking about coming back to the game. But if you're currently playing EVE Online and are curious about creating the alpha clone, here's my list of 5 things you need to consider before creating your free-to-play character. The information contained in this guide has been collected from the dev blogs, as I'm releasing this video before the free-to-play model goes live. So let's go ahead, let's dive in. There are 4 races in EVE Online to pick from, and in the past your choice did not really matter because you could cross-train to any skill you would like, but the alpha clones are constrained in particular skills for each race. The only way to cross-train now is to upgrade to the Omega clone that comes with a paid subscription. The skills for the alpha clones are limited and are capped at a certain level. The good news is that the majority of these skills overlap quite a bit between the races, so whether you'd like to mine, explore, or trade, you're not limited in your choice, but there are some key differences in skill training. And as such, in order to pick between the Amarr, the Caldari, Gallente, and Minmatar, you have to consider the following. The first major thing is the type of gunnery you would like to train for. There are 3 types of gunnery turrets in EVE Online, and they are energy, hybrid, and projectile turrets. Right off the bat, both Caldari and Gallente specialize in hybrid turrets. There are other differences between these 2 races which I'll get to later, and although hybrid weapons can be considered one of the most powerful weapons in EVE Online, they do have their disadvantages. These turrets use moderate capacitor energy of the ship and are restricted to only 2 of the 4 damage types. The short-range version called the Blasters offers the highest damage per second but suffers from a very short range. The long-range version called the Railguns provides optimal ranges that are longer than any other weapon types, but suffers from a low DPS. The Amarr race uses energy weapons which are lasers. The lasers have one great advantage in that they use crystals to fire. The Tech 1 crystals never run out, and it's very quick to swap between them. The disadvantage of the energy turrets is that they require a lot of capacitor energy of the ship, and just like the hybrid weapons, they are limited to only 2 of the 4 damage types. The range of the energy turrets is dictated by the crystals that you use, and the closer the range, the higher is the DPS. Finally, the Minmatar use the projectile weapons. These turrets do not use any capacitor energy of the ship unlike the other turrets, and you can select the damage type you want by changing the ammo. It gets a little complicated when selecting the ammo, as aside from just the damage type, the choice of ammo also dictates bonuses to optimal range, tracking speed, and damage per second. Of course, there's a lot more things to consider with regards to each weapons type, but these are the basics of each of the 3. And this brings us to the second thing you'd have to consider when picking your free-to-play alpha clone, and that is the choice of whether you'd like to specialize in missiles or drones. All 4 races can train the very basic missile and drone skills, but Amarr and Gallente specialize in drones, while Caldari and Minmatar are able to specialize in the missile skills. So what exactly is the difference between the 2? Both missiles and drones can be chosen for each of the 4 damage types, and both have delayed damage, meaning they first have to travel to the target if it's far away, but drones you have to actively manage. You can fly a maximum of 5 drones at a time, and the drones can be destroyed, so you have to pull them back if they're being targeted. Missiles on the other hand work almost just like the gunnery turrets. Just select your target and fire them off. Missiles are more of an easy mode. They will provide reliable but not high damage per second. Drones on the other hand are quite a formidable weapon and very tough to fight against in PvP. One additional advantage for picking a race that allows for drone specialization in alpha clones is the ability to train the repair drone operation skill. That's a very useful skill to have in a fleet, as you'll be able to repair your teammates. Overall, missiles are easy to use and reliable, but drones may have the upper hand here, and are definitely more useful in PvP. The Caldari race favors missiles, while the Gallente favor drones. For the Amarr and Minmatar, those skills play more of a support role. The third consideration for picking the alpha clone race centers around a few extra skills that each race can train. Since the Amarr and Gallente favor armor defense, also known as tanking, these 2 races will be able to train the remote armor repair system skill. That skill will allow you to repair the damaged armor of your fleet members. Likewise, since the Caldari and Minmatar favor shield tanking, those 2 races will have a skill for shield emission systems that will let you repair the shields of your fleet members. And finally, the Gallente and Minmatar each have a unique skill in the electronic systems. The Gallente are able to train the sensor linking skill. that will let pilots either boost the sensor strength of their teammates or disrupt the sensors of their targets. The Minmatar, on the other hand, are able to train the target painting skill. This lets the pilots use the target painter module that makes the targets easier to track and hit. The Amarr and Caldari do not have anything extra when it comes to the electronic system skills. Now of course, all of these skills trained are being applied to the ships of each race. As an Alpha clone, you'll be able to fly any Tech 1 frigate, destroyer or cruiser of the race that you pick. And the available ship lineup is the fourth consideration when picking an Alpha clone race. Without getting into detail about each particular ship available, here is the general overview of what each race has to offer. Starting with Amarr, their ships have a very strong armor tank that generally makes them very slow, especially compared to the other races. Some ships specialize in deploying drones, but usually they're not as good as the Gallente drone boats. Most Amarr ships though use lasers as their main weaponry. Caldari ships rely on shield tanking and mostly missiles, but some of the ships in the lineup use hybrid weapons. Typically Caldari ships are good for PvE, and because of their reliance on missiles, they do well long range. Typically these ships are faster than Amarr, but on average not faster than Minmatar and Gallente. The Gallente ships excel at being the armor tank drone boats, and when they're not specializing in fielding drones, they utilize hybrid weapons quite well. In fact, the Gallente lineup of Tech 1 frigates, destroyers and cruisers can be considered to be the best in the game. Aside from the PvP considerations, if you're thinking of creating an industrial-minded Alpha clone character, the sheer amount of the industrial ships, each with their specific bonuses, should be enough to sway your decision to join the Gallente. The only other race with more than 2 industrial haulers is the Minmatar, but the Minmatar industrial ships do not have the same bonuses towards industry. Overall, the Minmatar ships tend to be the fastest in the game. Although the Minmatar Alpha clones are able to use the shield and mission system skills to repair the shields of their teammates, typically the Minmatar ships are more versatile in whether they use shield or armor tanking. And as for weapons, they specialize in projectile turrets, with only some ships relying on missiles. And finally, the fifth and last consideration when picking the Alpha clone character is a little bit more subjective, and that is the aesthetics of the ships as well as the background story of each race. The Amarr ships are typically gold colored with intricate designs on their hulls. The Caldari build very utilitarian cold grey ships. The Gallente favor asymmetrical and very curved blue-green designs, while the Minmatar typically have rust-colored ships that appear to be assembled from spare parts. These ship designs are directly tied into the background stories of each of the races. These stories can be heard from the introductory movies when creating your first character. Of course, these appearances do not have a direct impact on how the ships perform in-game, and role-playing is not quite prevalent in EVE Online compared to other MMOs. So it's really up to you how much weight you would like to give this subjective consideration when creating your Alpha clone character. But just to recap, the 5 things that you should consider before selecting your Alpha clone race are your choice of the gunnery, whether it's lasers, hybrid or projectile turrets, whether you'd like to rely on missiles or be able to control drones, if you would like to repair your teammates' shields or armor, and additionally whether you'd like to have an extra electronic system skill, the ship lineup available for each race, and what ship design and background story you feel most connected to. And just to reiterate, the last point does not have any tangible impact on how the ships perform in-game, but since you cannot cross-train into other ships when you're an Alpha clone, if you get stuck with a ship design that you really dislike, you might not get the same satisfaction from the game. Thank you so much for watching. If you're just starting EVE Online for the first time, I really hope this video helped you out. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe for more EVE Online guides and videos. I'm Reload, wishing you safe flying out there.